So in the Z-Spheres chapter, we briefly talked about how we can use Z-Spheres to actually pose our characters. This is a great way of posing within ZBrush. Now, it's nowhere near as good as actually rigging your characters up, but compared to not rigging up and just brute forcing it, this is a great way. So the way we do it is, first we have to make sure that we have all the subtools we need and everything is the way it should be. We also have to make sure that there are no layers on anything. I don't trust ZBrush when it comes to layers and posing, so just make sure that if we go to layers, that there are no layers on anything. We can figure this out if we just go scroll up and down and just using the arrow keys. So now we can just make sure there are no layers on anything. Once we've done that, then we are good to go. I'm just going to switch to a more appealing matte cap. So we find this one under Transpose Master. So that's C plugin and it's Transpose Master. And we need to enable Z-Sphere Rig and then T-Pose Mesh. Now this is going to turn into like a Transpose Master mode. And let's see what happens. So now we have a Z-Sphere, and now we're going to use all the knowledge we gained in the Z-Sphere chapter to actually just make a quick little rig for this guy. We're going to switch to the scaling tool by hitting the E key, and we can just scale it down. Now, if you do struggle with anything we're doing now, just refer back to the Z-Sphere chapter. So quick refreshers here. We use the draw to actually just draw it out like so. Then we can hold and draw it out and hit the shift key to create one of the equal size. We can draw it down. We can click here and we can draw it down. Click here and draw it down. And the more control you want over your posing, the more effort you should spend on the rig. If you want to control every single toe, you're going to have to do that. If not, it's just going to give you a general control over every single one of them. Now, we are really not going to spend too much time on this because that would be a bit of a waste of time and I don't want to waste your time. Get her approximately in the middle of the body. Now, I clearly know that that's not how the real world works, where this is where the organs would be. And the spine would be further back here, but you get better skinning if you do it like this. Just put it like so, approximately where the neck is, and then we just put a bone for the head as well. We can also make some for the ears too, if you want extra control over those. Okay, and then we do the same for the arms. We're just dragging them out like so. Try to think about the pivot placement of a real skeleton like this. This is going to help you massively. Try to put them approximately where the joints are going to be. Okay, and we really should have done all the fingers and everything, but you can do that on your own. You can of course find this file here under the project course as well. Okay, so now we have a rig here, which is super basic, but it's going to work okay. Now we can go here and we can just try it out. We can just see if we can rotate around and just see if this kind of makes sense. Now, if we want to actually bind the two together, then we go under Tool, go all the way to the bottom, and here we have rigging. And here we have a nice feature called Bind Mesh. And now, through magic, these two have now been bound. It looks super cool because now we can just go here and we can just very quickly just pose up our character. So this is the gist of it. So you make the Z-Sphere rig, then you hit Bind Mesh, and then you just pose it to your heart's content, and then you go from there. One thing you have to be aware of now is that if you want to save this, you have to save this as a project. You can't save this as a tool. It's not going to transfer back correctly. Another thing you can do as well to get better deformation, if we see if we have an area with terrible deformation now. If we want to get better deformation in the elbow here maybe, let me show you this. Now we can kind of create some proxy bones here. Like now we're kind of cheating that we have skinning because we can't paint skin weights like we can in other software. What we can do, we can kind of cheat the volumes a little. We can add these little bones like this so that we will have some more control over where they are. So for instance, for the spine here, we can add some of these spines going out like so, and we're just going to get slightly better deformation. In some areas, it's absolutely essential because you might have areas which are too close together, but in a lot of areas, it doesn't matter at all. So you might want to do ribs as well. That's just to give them a bit more of control in this area. So you can see how insanely versatile Zspheres actually are. This is just because it's one of the oldest areas of ZBrush, and a lot of technology in ZBrush was built around it. Like retopology, which we are not covering at all because that is absolutely terrible. Okay, so I think I made one point here now. Now let's again click bind mesh, and now we should just have a little bit better deformation in those areas. And this is where it becomes important, what we talked about before, where how you actually rotate it around is really important when you are moving this guy around now, that you are rotating and not moving. Because if you start to move it, particularly if you hold the Alt key and do this, then you are breaking the rig. If you want to, you can also use the move brush as well, just by hitting the joints in between, because then you're kind of posing it. It almost looks like some kind of IK setup, but I generally prefer to rotate it just properly. But let's give him a bit of a posture here, like so. And then we can rotate her up. Let's make him the Michael Jackson one we talked about. Okay. Cool. Okay, so now we have a nice little pose. Let's break the symmetry just a little bit. So we have some asymmetry going here, and then we would just want to change the neck up a little bit as well. Okay, cool. Clearly there's something very broken with the head. That's where we would need another joint. You can see it's down here. But even so, let's say this is we are now ready with this. Now what we do is before we hit T-pose mesh, now we need to hit T-pose to sub-T, which just means it's going to go from this mode into sub-tool mode. So let's click this one. And what you can see now, which is absolutely fantastic, is that this transposes all the subtools, and it also restores the subdivision levels, which is amazing. So this is actually a pretty legit way of posing your characters. Some limitations is that it's very hard to actually go back to your original rig, but that is just a limitation of ZBrush. Here's also a little nice tip for you as well when it comes to posing. This is not really a part of this chapter, but it's a little bonus for you. If you want to keep sculpting now, you can't really do that because you see the symmetry is off. But we have a little magical button here for you, which is under Transform, Symmetry, and use Posable Symmetry. So we click this now. Now suddenly you can see that symmetry is now posable. This hasn't really been an issue until now, but it just means that now we can go up here and we can continue sculpting on our character. So we can keep sculpting on our delts, and we can just keep adding refinement to it. So posable symmetry, really useful stuff. So there we go. You might have to store the posability on every single subdivision level, but that's a well worth bit of effort. So super useful stuff.